Lights, camera, action.
Welcome to the Requel podcast, a new podcast, part of the Fanfare podcast here at Press Play. In this podcast, I, your host, Tyler, takes a property and decides, we pitch ideas. Basically, we take an established franchise and say, what would we do with it? Are we rebooting it? Are we making a sequel, midquel, sidequel? What would we do? And then we pitch it. Either I pitch to you or we pitch it to each other, my guests and I. So what we're going to do now, as I establish this show, you're going to be introduced to some previous little episodes I had done previously before being part of this group. So this episode is what I'm going to dub. So I'm going to dub this Requel Legacy episodes, and this episode will be all about Warner Brothers DC properties. So you're going to hear 4 snippets and small mini episodes. So enjoy this new Requel. Welcome to this special episode of Requel, where Tyler just pitches ideas that's in his mind and his head because that's what's fun and other people are too busy to join him. I'm Tyler. So recently we watched Blue Beetle, and if you're interested in that film, check out James and I's review conversation of Blue Beetle that just posted over on Krypton Report. Now here's my thoughts. In the film, we get a post-credit scene that basically Ted Kord's missing. And I think it's very important that, Ted Kord is missing because this is an origin for Jaime, but a legacy character. And Jaime in the comics a lot of times doesn't interact with Ted Kord. Now, I'm no expert. I say that. I recently read the Blue Beetle Graduation, which involved Jaime and Ted Kord and introduced Victoria Kord. So my pitch kind of for a Blue Beetle sequel is this, and I feel like Blue Beetle in a way kind of can match the template, say, of Ant-Man, if we're going to look across the, ways at Marvel here. So the sequel would be Blue Beetles and Booster Gold. And what would happen is I would open the film, and it's a prologue of Ted's father dying. Victoria, we get Victoria in it, and we get the idea of where Kord Industry was, and basically on Father Kord's deathbed, he laments about what he did to the family. He laments about kind of pushing his son to the side and focusing so much on his daughter from his first marriage. I have that because ways of shortening this huge age gap between Ted Kord, because Susan Sarandon is not that young. And as we talked about, my thought is Ted Kord should emerge no older than like 45. He has a 23-year-old daughter. So Ted should be like mid-40s, okay? And then, he had his second marriage, which is the woman that helped him start to change his mind about stuff. And here on his deathbed, he's apologizing to Ted for his sins. And basically pushing off to Ted, correct my legacy, make our company something better. That's why he leaves it to Ted. And we see Victoria's jealousy and anger. And, we see Ted start to make with his Blue Beetle tech, boom, cut to modern day. Jaime living with the family. They're doing well. We see this film would focus a little bit more on giving Kaj and Jaime some sort of arc. Like, I feel like Kaj was, the Scarab itself, Kaj was not really that much of a character in the last film. I know they hired Becky G to be Kaj, and the only place I know Becky G from was she did a song that was in one of the Hotel Transylvania films, and she was Trini the Yellow Ranger in 2017's Power Rangers. And I feel like you hire someone for their voice work that's recognizable, but then you bury their voice so much by automation sounding that we did not really get to know who was under the Scarab. And I think there needed to be a little bit more of this bonding, tranquil symbiotic storyline that builds Jaime and Kaj together. They learn about each other and why Jaime was chosen. And, you know, the Kajada is really a character in the story. So we have that. Then basically what happens is, opening action scene, Jaime is, you know, flying around, detects some sort of trouble, and he intercedes, and then at the end, we have some sort of like clapping, applauding from the distance or whatever, and it's Booster Gold. And Booster has come because he got a detection that the Blue Beetle is active, and he came from time or wherever he was to find out if it was Ted was back. And, you know, Booster kind of makes this alliance with Jaime, like, hey, Ted was my best friend. We used to do things together. If you're active with the Beetle, maybe you can help me and we can find it because he's been missing. And, you know, let's just go ahead and say it was pin it. Somehow Victoria was responsible for Ted's disappearance. She wanted to have him killed, and he just went disappearing. And however we want to swing it, he's in a dimension or lost in time or something. But you go on this travel, this story, and about, you know, your midpoint in the film is where you rescue Blue Beetle, rescues with Booster Gold Ted, and you have Ted come in, and, you know, you have the Ginny and Ted together. You have Ginny and Jaime are together. Ted meets Jaime and he's impressed, and they have a mentor-mentee relationship that starts to grow. You know, Jaime's father is passed on in the last film. Ted represents something different for Jaime to look up to, respect, and learn from. And Jaime is moving forward in his own life but the family still needs to be core. We still have this. Jaime has a job providing for the family, what that looks like. When Ted gets back, it's kind of, what do I do now? How do I explain where I've been? He kind of still lets Ginny run things. He steps back and kind of wants to catch up with his daughter. Like, he's a man who's lost so much time with his child, and what that looks like, what the world looks like. But we still have to create a villainous threat. And I feel like villainous threats are important, but I feel like with the Blue Beetle, keeping that core heart of the family. And what does family mean? You know, in this film, we're looking at the family that you make with friendship, with like Booster coming in. You look at family that is Ted and Ginny, and where that is. And like I said, I need to work on developing more of who the villain is and what the antagonist of the situation is. I have a couple of ideas, but I like to be true to the comics. Okay, I like to be true to the stories already created and not put too much of a spin of originality into it when I feel like the comics have such a rich history that's true to these characters. Now, James and I mentioned how usually in a lot of these stories, Ted Cord is already dead, and that's kind of a jumping point for Jaime. But with the current comic and everything, I think having Ted feels like a kind of character that James Gunn would be interested in, because he is such a he's I like the term goofy, but he's not, you know, he's a tinkerer, he's an inventor, kind of person, similar to Batman, but he's more of a scientist, you know. And I have my ideas, but Ted knows more about the Scarab, and Jaime gets to learn more about the history of the Scarab with Ted, and we learn a little bit. We get maybe a flashback to Ted, a younger Ted with Dan Garrett, when he passed on, and the Scarab, and which influenced Ted to be Blue Beetle. Just really bringing home this legacy element that was established in the first Blue Beetle. And my thing with the Blue Beetle is I kind of look at the Dark Knight trilogy. And you're like, whoa, Tyler, whoa. But go on this ride with me. When Batman Begins came out, it did well. Okay? I don't remember the numbers. Times were different back in 08 or 05. But it was not this cultural, iconic, oh my God. It wasn't until the sequel was getting promoted and the hype and the buzz and the images and the trailers for The Dark Knight that retroactively made people go back and check out Batman Begins. Even for me, I remember liking Batman Begins, but not loving it. Like, oh, this was cool because it was so different. And then when The Dark Knight came out, everybody went back and watched Batman Begins, and Batman Begins became a bigger conversation, and how important that film was, and what that meant to establishing this trilogy and comics, films, and it became the Holy Grail, right? And I feel like Blue Beetle 1 might be that in the sense that it was underestimated, underappreciated. It'll do well and have legs, but you do the sequel right, and you build into establishing something greater. And like I said, the sequel to Ant-Man was what? Ant-Man and the Wasp. Captain Marvel's sequel is The Marvels, where they're bringing in how they did Miss Marvel. So Blue Beetle, and the sequel being Blue Beetles and Booster Gold, kind of thing, I think plays into that. I always say, the first Ant-Man film was okay, very generic, paint by the numbers, but what do we like about that? Paul Rudd. And the fact that Marvel was already building its brand, its machine, and was having these sequels, and of course the next film, Civil War and Ant-Man's, so it helped elevate the Ant-Man films, and then of course Ant-Man 3 was, why do people care about Ant-Man 3, really? Well, the biggest thing from Ant-Man 3 is they wanted to put Kang in there to introduce Kang, and that was hey, we're not going to be able to really make Ant-Man work much longer. People love Paul Rudd, so let's just have him fight Kang as an introductory to our new big bad. So, So what I'm suggesting is we do Blue Beetles, and then, the third film is where, in trilogy form, you go back to the beginning, right? The third film is where you have the Reach. And it can be like a big full-on invasion, or something small where you have another Beetle or two, like the Black Beetle. I look at you, Young Justice, for inspiration, showing up, and the Reach are coming down, or they show up, and they kind of talk about how Blue Beetle was one of them, and they sent him a while to be an emissary to help them. And, it kind of flips the script on people well, why haven't you done more for us, Blue Beetle? And Jaime's, something is wrong. Ted's something is wrong. I don't trust them. And then you have the Reach basically tweak Kaj, and it takes over Jaime and is their servant, and you have Ted having to battle Jaime. And of course, somewhere along the line in here, Ted would die in the third movie. But Jaime would recontrol, and Kaj, they would resync and be no, we have to stop the Reach because this isn't right to annihilate people. And that's where the story would go. Basically, Jaime really steps into his own, stops the alien invasion, stops the Reach. And that would complete his trilogy arc. And I think it's all there. I think the Blue Beetle is a unique property with as much legacy as it has built in, but it's not as been oversaturated. I mean, it's just, and I hate always going back to a Marvel comparison, but it's the type of character that Marvel thrived on. These you don't know them that great, but we're going to make you know them characters. These C and D listers that we're going to bring up and make prominent characters. And I feel like Blue Beetle has the foundation of being familiar and accessible to everyone. And I hope to see it, gain more strength in the future. We will see what happens. That's kind of my pitch for where to take this character in a generic broad stroke. Like if I sat down with some comics and busted it out and really started dialing in, I could probably really get into a stronger story and give you more plot outlines. But this is what's kind of been festering in my brain for the past couple of days since seeing the film. So that is my story. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on your pitches. Reach out to Krypton Report on all social media. And remember, keep watching some movies. Always think. Create your own ideas. Hey everybody, trying something different while I'm in my car recording, trying a different recording device. Thought I'd give out this pitch for this episode of the Requel podcast. What I was thinking is this. We got all this Warner Brothers shakeup, and we don't know what's going down, who's going what. And, that's okay, and that's life, right? But there is talk of Wonder Woman 3. And this is my pitch. I've said it on the main feed of Krypton Report, but I thought I'd break it down and make it a little smaller here. I don't think I've done this yet. My brain's been crazy. Lots going on. But Wonder Woman 3 should be set in modern day. It should be the follow-up to Justice League. Okay, now I'm saying Justice League loosely. We both know that in the film, Steppenwolf attacked, and the Amazons on both versions, so that no matter which version is used as quote-unquote canon, this film could be the sequel to it. Okay? So the idea is we know that Steppenwolf attacked, took the mother box, killed the Amazons. That's all we need to know. Okay? Simple. The idea is Diana, after learning of Steppenwolf's attack, that he slayed the Amazons, took the mother box, she now is compelled to return home. It's a return to the island. She has to get back to Themyscira. So that's the main theme. The movie will take place mainly on Themyscira. And what will happen is, one, my plot points are this. She will have to befriend the paleontologist, I can't pronounce her name, that, most recently was in the Wonder Woman Bloodlines cartoon, who her daughter becomes Silver Swan. We will not use the Silver Swan, but we'll plant the seed there maybe later on down the line if they do Wonder Woman 4. But that archaeologist, together they build a new friendship, a new bond, a new female sisterhood together as they search for Themyscira, and Diana is able to locate it and return there. So we have the issues with her and her mother working out. We have her mourn and see the death of her sisters. But what we also have is we learn more about Themyscira, what that place is. And the way that it was done in Wonder Woman 1 and even in 2 and even in Justice League, there's a lot on the island that's a mystery. Now, the animated Wonder Woman film did a great job of presenting us with the fact that the Amazons, are the protectors of the underworld. And in this lore that we have right now is all the old gods are dead. The Greek pantheon is gone. So the idea is that Hades no longer rules the underworld, and the underworld is breaking free. And I think you could do a very awesome Greek mythology-laced story in the idea of her having to go under the island, into the island, to make sure to seal the gates to the underworld. You could have some mythological beasts, but you could also bring the Gorgon Medusa, and having Wonder Woman battle Medusa, and I think that could be really cool, and just kind of dig back into her Greek mythological roots. It is rumored that she will appear in Shazam! Fury of the Gods, and how that plays in mythology, so maybe I'll have to retweak my pitch. But the main theme and central story for Wonder Woman 3 would be about, reuniting, coming home, after 100 plus years. Like, how has that affected Diana compared to how that's affected her mother? How does her mother see her? What rules is she breaking? You could even go as far as Hippolyta allows Diana to return to the island as her last active queen, and then because of that, she breaks the sacred laws that she has to relinquish her crown. This could be a very compelling story, and I think it would be a great story for Wonder Woman 3. So let me know what your thoughts are. All right, guys. Bye.
What I got today is we are at the 1 year since The Suicide Squad, and a lot of people liked it, some didn't. But here is my pitch for Suicide Squad 3, what I'm referring to as Suicide Squad or The Suicide Squad Battleground. The plot picks up where we have somebody like, I don't know, let's say Kurt Russell comes out. He's Rick Flag. Joel Kinnaman was Rick Flag Jr. Rick Flag Sr., Kurt Russell, my casting, still directed by James Gunn, finds out that Amanda Waller set his son up to be murdered. So he's retired, highly decorated. He could be a colonel, he could be a general. I'd have to dive into some lore. But the idea is he is angry what's happened to his son. So he goes after Waller, but because of some bureaucratic tape, he can't get to her. Okay? So what he does is he employs a certain Mr. Slade Wilson. So he hires Slade, played by Joe Manganiello, to go kill Waller. While this happens, Waller sends out the Suicide Squad to stop Slade, consisting of Deadshot and King Shark. Or not King Shark, sorry, Killer Croc. And we'll have a few new characters as well. But the crux of it is we bring back another team, which Flag Sr., he's not fully down with this. So he has Destro. So Rick Flag Sr. is upset, but he has his own team. We have Bloodsport back. We have Harley back because, like, at the end of the last film, they both stated they were friends of Flags. So the idea is we have the two movies kind of colliding more. Bringing back Will Smith, because for sure he needs to work now after everything that's happened. And we get to see Deathstroke like we wanted to. And we really have Waller, is the one in trouble. Her head is on the line. She's the one that's being hunted and basically is trying to use Task Force X to protect herself. We'll have some hijinks from the White House where I think that would be interesting to eventually they disavow Waller. And we can have a satisfying battle with her character and see what happens. Excuse me. But the idea is you have two conflicting teams battling. And then there would be a third objective where something goes down that actually needs the squad's attention. And that's happening at the same time. I just got done watching The Suicide Squad and it kind of just came to me. So... yeah, it was, how can we do this? And I think the Rick Flag is the crux because, I understood that in The Suicide Squad killing right off the bat, having what's-his-face, Captain Boomerang die sucked, but it was kind of like nobody's safe. And I just feel like we need to have something that kind of ties everything together and it would be fun to see King Shark versus Killer Croc, because, King Shark would come back. So that's kind of my quick thought on a third Suicide Squad movie.
Now, this bums me out. I was looking at figures. It is opening weekend for Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Shazam 2, a film that I've been looking to for a while. I mean, it has been 4 years since the first Shazam. And does that hurt it? The numbers are coming back. It made about 35, right around there, million opening weekend, which is not good. That's the type of numbers you expect your second or third week. And the movie doesn't deserve that. And that's part of my fear, was this was going to be the film that was going to come out that's going to be really great, refreshing, and what we need, but it's not going to do well at the box office. And I think marketing had a huge part of it. The movie got shuffled. They barely did any kind of push marketing. It's just kind of forgotten about. When you're in the store, there's nothing there. I mean, looking back, there was a large toy line for the first Shazam. You had a 12-inch Savannah and Shazam. You had 6-inch figures for all the Shazam family characters. You had little toy costumes to put on. And all this was echoed, and I bring up Black Adam because it's in the same vein with the merchandising of Black Adam. And Black Adam opened a few months ago to $67 million on its opening weekend, which is better. I mean, it's double plus. So I just think that's something worth noting. We are at this time where people are talking superhero fatigue. Is that happening? Maybe. But we're also coming back, and we're expecting more from our movies. But also, one of the biggest things to hurt everything is so many people, they don't want to go out and support these films. Because they know in about 45 days, it'll be on HBO Max, or Peacock, or Paramount Plus. Those have been the big three studio-based films. Films coming to streaming. So I'm hearing that from a lot of people. And I'm just like... But if you're not a fan of these films, I get it. But if you are and you like the DC brand and you like the first one, or if you don't go out and support it, it's going to kill it. And that's why my big push for Shazam 3 is taking Shazam, which I think deserves a third film, and taking Black Adam, which right now is not going to get a sequel. And some of that's The Rock himself's doing. And wrapping them together to make one solid film that everybody wants to see.
I'm adding to this recording right now because the kids and I are actually walking around Walmart right now. And it is, the weekend of Shazam's release. And you know what I find at Walmart? Nothing for Shazam. No toys, not even the McFarlane 1 Shazam figure. But you know what I do see? Multiple play sets of every Black Adam character there is. They went all out on Black Adam and nothing for Shazam. There's still, of course, the remnants of the toys of the Batman. Oh, look, there's one Shazam toy. And you know what it is? It's just the regular Spin Master Shazam. Not even from the film. And then it's kind of heartbreaking. Sayla and I were just talking about when we saw Shazam and we saw the trailer for Barbie. Now, I just want to throw out, my daughter is wearing bright pink shoes, pink pants, a pink shirt, and a mini jacket. Now, Sayla, what did you say about Barbie?
I hate Barbies.
That's it, from the horse's mouth. So, it's been a couple of days since seeing Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And it's time to think of what would be my 3 pitch. And I say 3 because giving Shazam a strong trilogy. I think there are elements that need to be spoken about. This will be a spoiler-free pitch, and I haven't quite got it, but this is more of a conversation of thoughts towards a Shazam 3. The first thing to point out is the fact that 2 people who are adults
who possess the powers of the wizard, the Shazam, however you want to do it, that are still themselves. We see that Mary Marvel, played by Grace Fulton, is now an adult, so when she transforms, she is still herself, just with her powers, which I think is very interesting. Now, The Rock, when he transforms, is just a beefed up, bigger version of himself. There's not another actor. Now, in this film, we learn that Billy is almost 18. So that begs the question, can you do Shazam and have Asher Angel as Shazam, or do you have to keep Levi? My answer is you have to keep Levi because he is the character. So there's a first thought. So I think the elements are all here. Now, piecing everything together is going to be the fun part. So just like I said, this is a spoiler. In the post-credit scene of Shazam, Fury of the Gods, also known as Shazam 2, we have him being approached to join the Justice Society by Hardcore and Economos. Hardcore being seen in Black Adam, still working for Waller. We have that thread. Okay. I say you have to do Shazam 3 as opening up with Black Adam being seen as this the people of Kahndaq want him to rule. I think that was a big miss in the Black Adam film with him destroying the idea of the throne. But I think he's being pressured to be the leader and face of Kahndaq, this nation that has been pillaged and disturbed, now having a strong champion of their own. You have the wizard, who is now back alive, basically realizing that Black Adam is back, and he knows he can be trouble. So he is preparing Billy for this potential confrontation that should become. I think you have an opening scene with Black Adam destroying the remnants of any Intergang that's left in Kahndaq. You have a scene of all of the Shazam family showing up and kind of confronting Black Adam and trying to welcome him in, because there is the empty throne in the Rock of Eternity for the seventh wizard. Now, the hardest part about this is Black Adam wasted Sabak. In all reality, the way that movie was, you could have just had Intergang as this villain, because you had positioned Black Adam as this, is he a villain, is he a hero? And he could have been the antagonist without having a clear one big bad villain, because Sabak, to me, would have been the best villain that posed the biggest threat to both Black Adam and Shazam. And they wasted that. Now, we can retcon that or find some way of that comes back around, but I feel like we've already kind of wasted and really diminished the fear level that this villain should have been. Alright. Second post-credit scene in Shazam was the fact that Mr. Mind did visit Savannah. Again, and he even states it's been 2 years. So, and Mr. Mind says he is going somewhere. So what I recommend is they open up the Magic Lands more. And something from the Magic Lands is on its way, and it's going to take all of the quote-unquote Shazam family. So you have this conflict of, we could do a great scene of Billy Shazam meeting the Justice Society and being there, and Hawkman, and we could bring in the new Dr. Fate, would be cool, or we just get a Justice Society movie. Just saying, that'd be awesome too. But I think the core would be Black Adam, in a sense, redeeming himself to the Wizard. Black Adam finding some sort of bond with the Shazam family. Billy growing up and learning some things from Black Adam about leader, but Black Adam also learning about heart of family and learning that Billy is a child and positioning back to his son Harut, and that Harut was a child who was given these champion powers and was the one the Wizard had chosen, can be a turning point once again for this character. It does suck that there was no mention of Black Adam at all in the Shazam film, not even just something the Wizard learning that Black Adam had been released. We could get a really cool, or we could open the film up with a flashback, and Billy, we learned that, Black Adam's been released, and through a flashback of the Wizard telling the story of how, Teth Adam had assumed Harut's powers, went on a rampage, destroying the king and all of his people, and setting the sins free, and just wreaking havoc, thus the Wizards having to imprison the champion. And then we have the Shazam family like, wow, like, what should we do about this guy? Like, what needs to be done? And, they're like, we should talk with him. He is part of this. Of course, Darla, like, there was a great deleted scene that was in Shazam, the first film, that showed them sitting and seeing an empty throne, and Darla makes a great comment about, well, whoever it is, they'll be part of the family. I think a subplot would be interesting if CC Batson shows up to see Billy, who is an adult now, and he's living with Victor and them, and we see that CC is not a good person. And I don't know if that should be explored, but I do think it's kind of interesting because it's been so much tied to Rosa and his mom, and there was great parallels in the first film and the second film about Billy's evolution with Mother, that let's look at Victor as his father, because I think also it'd be an interesting scene of seeing Black Adam talk with Victor, kind of much like how Black Adam spoke about Amon and the idea of who's teaching this kid battle. So he's, looking at Victor raising these children and what should be done. I definitely think it's always tricky with everybody. I think whatever villain that I come up with here, that Mr. Mind is using, we need to do something more with Tawny. And I think that the Shazam family should all have to kind of almost give their power back to Billy and really charge up Billy. Even Black Adam, in the end, having a turn of giving Billy his power to charge him up to be the most powerful champion to defeat whatever it is. One of the major pins on a Shazam film, and I was just reminded this by Solomon here, is you do have the kids. And the kids are growing up. So I do think that Shazam 3, which I'm calling it right now, which I would probably title Shazam and Black Adam, should be more fast-tracked, just because the kids are growing up so much, and you lose something once the kids get to be adults. One thing that I would do in Shazam 3 is I would pick up shortly after Billy turns 18. So it would come relatively close after Shazam 2. And it would be about Billy, graduating. Like, the kids, him and Freddie have graduated. They've never really staggered who's older, where, but it always, it feels like Freddie and Billy are the next oldest after Mary. And it would be about who is now Billy the man, and what does it mean to be a man? And that would be kind of part of Billy's arc, not his superhero side, but him. And I would give Asher Angel a little bit more to do. I felt like Fury of the Gods was very Levi heavy, and that's not a problem. But I think it would be interesting to see what Billy's going through and the family, and having Billy have a job. Billy would work at a fast food place for sure, and he would wrestle with, Mary. I think Mary should have moved on to college. And I hate saying that she should be absent, But I think her story is she should be off to college. And the other members of the family are doing their thing. And they're working a little bit more independently. And that would give way for Billy to kind of be open to finding out who he is without his family. He has his family's backing, but who is he if he doesn't have them? With him at all times, not without them, period.
The biggest thing we need to make sure that we're holding on to is the family element. And that's what I have here in my thought process is Black Adam, part of his arc is becoming part of a family, almost like that estranged uncle or the fun uncle or something. Because I really think you can tie, looking at the Black Adam character that was set up in the film, it has ties to his son and being a father. And I think that you can use that to where he sees Billy and the family and the children and the purity that's in the child, and as they grow and needing guidance and what he lacks in himself. But my thought is, we open up and Black Adam's destroying the last of Gang, and then we kind of intercut with scenes of the Justice Society. It's Billy's first mission, and it's just him. Like, it's kind of him on. It's his first big mission, and it's the Justice Society, Hawkman, Atom Smasher. Maybe we'll throw in a couple other, characters to kind of make it a little bit bigger of a team, as if Waller's been building it off screen. And they're stopping a natural disaster, like a tsunami, volcanic eruption, something that would be not a villain, but just some sort of event that would having super powered people helping would be wonderful. But we see that Billy, he's having a little bit of a tough time because he is still his arc is the boy growing to a man. And how does a boy who was forced to kind of grow up deal with now being, hey, you're a man? The other thing is, like, the films have depicted the Zach Levi Shazam, his superhero Shazam, as being more carefree and fun. And I think that's an interesting point, that Billy has more fun being this faux adult with powers than he has being himself as a child. And he himself as a child, he's very protected and guarded. Mr. Mind, I feel like, base plot, with them working on it, Mr. Mind's stealing all the magic, period. And he's taking all the magic from the world, and that's what forces all the magic of Black Adam / Shazam. We can bring back the Eternium if we need to. He's using it as a conduit to pull all the magic from the realm to him to become like an ultimate supreme intelligent being, unstoppable. And the fallout of after stopping Mr. Mind is magic is changed and it filters to the world differently. And that can build into our Swamp Thing and Justice League Dark and elements like that. I am still using this is post-crisis model. So magical elements seen by, say, Enchantress in Suicide Squad doesn't filter into this. We could have a great chase scene that involves them going through the magic lands, the different doors inside the Rock of Eternity. We'll need some henchmen. And it's a lot to juggle, but I think it can be done well to give chase to, I think Mr. Mind can. The hardest part is having the Shazam family, but then limiting them so that it's still Billy's story. And Billy working with Black Adam as a co-lead, co-protagonist film and where they are. And maybe because the Shazam family, some of them have moved. Like I said, Mary has moved on. Freddy, maybe he's with doing something for Waller with Anne. I'm still workshopping things. But I think that definitely whatever happens, Savannah should die at the end of the film. And we need to have at the third act where Billy has no powers, but he does the sacrificial act that's needed as Billy.
and Black Adam needs to be tested. Like, they need to be stripped of their powers, much like, we have the scene that still doesn't make a lot of sense of Teth Adam fighting while being locked up in Black Adam, which to me is like one of the worst scenes in the film, not because of the scene, but just the placement and the pathos that it kind of creates. It's weird. So we need to see Billy be the hero as Billy, having no powers. And maybe that's what, after that they stop Mr. Mind and get the powers back. And we see that Billy is a hero unto himself. And that's when it's revealed, maybe even to Justice Society members, which I feel like they would work best kind of at the beginning. And then this is a side quest that Billy has to go off and he does, with Black Adam. And instead of having all these, superheroes together. But just saying. And the Superman variable is what I'm calling it. I think there's a version where Superman's part of things, where you can make Black Adam the main antagonist if you wanted to go that route. And I feel like they didn't really set Black Adam up for that. And it's not where you would want to go in a second film, because we're taking two franchises and kind of pulling them together because they're both having points of suffering, and we need to kind of go out with a bang. So kind of pulling all the stops out, and with, in a perfect world, Henry would be there as Superman in this, and I would say we call him back. But to do that, like, we would have to give him a strong arc and have him something to do instead of just show up and everything. But what I would do is at the end of the film, it would be kind of similar to the scene in Superman Shazam, which I reviewed a while back with our friend Austin from the Shazam cast, where Superman talks to Shazam and then Clark talks to Billy. And it would be something in that vein. I'd even kind of maybe call back a little bit to the Shazam Black Adam film, where it kind of ends after everything's over. You have a scene of just Shazam talking to Superman and Clark giving him words and, a message of hope and about growth and about where he can go and the type of person he is, and that he doesn't have to be Superman. He only has to be true to himself, and that's okay. And the world is full of superheroes, and he just needs to do what is right. And I think that would be a great way to really let Henry go out on a high point, with a message of hope, and that life goes in a cycle of life, and also, having a final shot of the film of all 7 thrones being sat in with the Wizard, and having that arc of the Wizard and Black Adam coming together, kind of because, the Wizard did not choose Teth Adam. He chose Harut, and that choice was taken from him, and kind of like how Harut shared his power. And I also kind of wonder in the back of my head, if somebody is reading the current Black Adam comic, where it's about Teth Adam having to share his power with his descendant and created White Adam, it makes me kind of wonder if Harut in his champion form was more of White Adam, and it did the reverse here, that when the father inherited, he became Black Adam. And just a thought, but that's kind of where my mind's going with Shazam 3. I feel like it's a very influx kind of idea, but I feel that I would love to see this film. I'm a fan of the Shazam series, especially what they've done in the films they've made. They've been able to carve out their own identity, and it'll be really a good time. And, if the Shazam films are about coming of age, having a third film that really tops out that now you're supposed to be a man, like, oh, now you're an adult. What does that look like? What do we feel like when we wake up that day when we're 18? Like, you're an adult now, but you don't feel like an adult. You're being told you are something that you're not. And how do you deal with that? So that is my Shazam 3 pitch. All right, this is my last note. So this comes at me as today I was reading just some quotes on social media. Sandberg is definitely very active on social media.
And if his comment is to be looked at, he said he's done with the superhero genre for a while, wants to get back to his horror roots. And I get that. So that would mean that there would need to be a new director in place to do Shazam Black Adam. And that's what I'm going to call it, Shazam Black Adam. You know, and I'm just like, man, who should do that type of film to balance the characters and everything? But I'd hate to see Sandberg not to get to complete a trilogy. It also depends, you know, what Warner Bros. Want to do, you know. But John Watts being a director that nobody really knows but completed a Spider-Man trilogy. You know, Spider-Man now has 2 complete trilogies with a double. And nobody knows John Watts. And Sandberg will get to join the ever-growing now directors who have done trilogies of superheroes.